Welcome to Behind the Buzzwords with Tracy Eames, Arielle Morton, and Yanta Haynes, where we expand on marketing terms, tactics, and strategies in a more digestible way for entrepreneurs and business owners. Our goal is to debunk the marketing myths, remove scary barriers, and have a damn good time doing it. So take a seat and buckle up because you're in for a fun ride.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Buzzwords. I am here with Arielle Morton and Yanta Haynes, and we're going to chat today about one of the kinds of marketing that we don't often talk about, which is networking, in-person conversations. That's right. We're going to talk about coffee chats to contracts and mastering the art of networking. Arielle, Yanta, how you guys doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Actually, I'm breathing on how they say above the ground is always fun.
Always a positive.
It's always a good thing. I'm doing well.
I feel like our bar is a little low today, but you know, we're gonna go with that.
I mean, I can't do nothing but be exceptional for the rest of the day then.
I love it.
Love it. So I know in marketing, we all talk a lot about, you know, all the digital things these days, right? Social media, email, and we'll obviously speak a lot about that on this podcast. But today we thought we'd go a little quote unquote old school, talk about networking, going to your favorite networking events and, you know, connecting with people in real life. So Arielle, how do you sort of think about networking as part of your overall marketing strategy?
I think it's actually a big part of my overall marketing strategy this year. Previously, it was not, but this year, I've actually taken the initiative to test a few things out. And as a marketer, you know, we're always researching and exploring things. And so this year, I'm really leaning really heavily into that in-person networking connection. I do virtual networking events as well, but mostly like building on that conversation and that relationship building. And what I'm finding is that I can't say just yet because, you know, metrics are a thing and I need to wait, but I can't say just yet. But what I will say is I'm finding that to me, it seems like the turnaround time for that conversion is a lot higher than other things that I've used for marketing purposes.
And Yanta, how do you sort of think about it?
I actually enjoy networking events. I like to be in the spaces to hear minds talk. And due to the pandemic time, it was always active and everywhere you can find networking events. Now, I don't know if we can say we passed pandemic because it seems like something always still coming up. But right now, it's hard to find actually in-person events that still are active and people want to go to versus the virtual events. So I prefer the in-person events over the virtual events. The virtual events are nice. They are cool. I just think when you're in the space of other people's energy, you have a better connection to want to actually reach back up, going to what Arielle said with the follow-ups, and to actually turn it into gold after the event versus, okay, I seen you on the camera, I got your information. And then once you move to the next electronic thing that you're moving to. You don't stop for a second and think about the conversation, think about what you had, or go into someone else. When you're at a live networking event, you finish with one person and you run into the next person. And so then you get to keep bouncing off of other people's energy, other people's conversations. And then I think it evokes the thing to be more intentional. So I enjoy the networking events. I wish I can go to a lot more networking events because it does take virtual events is very much easier to get to because you ain't got to go too far. But I think to hold tension and to build that relationship, I would prefer the networking live events so that I can move my needle a little bit more forward because now I have that personal interaction with them. I get more conversion as Arielle was speaking to when I'm actually in the place in event. So versus on the virtual and reaching back out to people who just jumped on real quickly and probably just got the link and didn't make an intentional stand to meet people sometimes.
Yeah, Yanta, I totally get what you're saying about like energy. I am a little bit different in that I'm an introvert. So I got to kind of like measure my amount that I go to networking events. And that's like kind of my own sort of thing to measure. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there. Like I love the energy. I love going to actually recently I've spoken at a couple of conferences called Disrupt HR. And you go and you get like 5 minutes to make a presentation. Usually 10 people present. So it's a lot of like quick topics. And the thing I loved about them was I felt like I learned so much. I got to talk to really interesting people. learn a lot about how other people are operating their business, how they're thinking about teams, and kind of developing people within an organization. But I also realized that like I needed like 2 days to recover because I was like, oh, that's a lot of people for me to talk to in 4 hours. But like when I sort of think about networking, I think about it in two ways. One is like, how do I get support as an entrepreneur, right? Like, what are the ongoing events I'm going to that other business owners are going to? And we can kind of chat about, what we do. But then the marketing piece I mean, that's a little bit of marketing for me because business owners tend to be the people who hire us. But then like the other ones are more like the one-off like conferences or events or speaking engagements that we go to, meet individuals that we may, provide coaching for, etc. So yeah, I find it's a part of our kind of balance, but I have to balance my own personal energy when doing it.
I love that. I love that you said that because I wanted you to actually hear your perspective from an introvert because I am someone that I consider myself to be an ambivert. I'm able to work the room the way I need to work it at the time that I'm there, but when I'm done, I do need to go home and like decompress because it's a lot. But just thinking about it, a lot of introverts are like, ooh, networking events. I never want to use that for marketing. And I'm for that too. But in the case that you are considering it and you feel like it's something that you would like to try out, I would love to hear your approach, Tracy, on how you would go about doing it.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of like casual chit chat. So that's what drains me at networking events. I don't love the like, hey, what brings you here and how's the weather and like that kind of stuff like I don't love. I also don't love the hard sell. Like I don't love going to networking events and feeling like I'm constantly being pitched. It's really draining for me. So I kind of operate as if I want to be approached, and that might not be the best approach for everybody. But as an introvert, what I find feels really authentic is finding, an initial person to talk to that I generally have, a lot of questions for. And so I'll just ask a bunch of things about what they do and, how they think about things. And I find that more times I ask questions, one, it kind of gives me a little bit to what Yanta was saying. It gives me a lot of great information, right? Like we're always talking on this podcast about getting to know your ideal clients. If you're just having a genuine conversation with somebody, you're going to start to pick up on like, what are the challenges of, your ICA and what are the things that they're thinking about? Because you're just having really genuine conversations. So I try not to go into networking thinking, hey, I'm going to get a lead out of this. I just go into it always as like a learning opportunity and say, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, if I meet a couple of interesting people and I learn a couple of new things about my ideal client, it's a win. And if there's a lead that comes out of it, even better, right? But like I try not to put that pressure on myself because then I find I get more focused on like what I'm going to provide versus what they need. And that just gets me a little bit tangled up.
I like it. I like it. What about you, Yanta? I know that you're a bit of an ambivert yourself, but you lean a lot into the introverted side. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree with Tracy about going in there and not trying to sell to people in the intent, because that's one of the things that actually brings anxiety to a lot of people is one, going in there with pressure put on them on how they have to show up, how they have to act, instead of just easily going in there with just trying to make a connection.
Yeah.
Just trying to see what's out there. Like it's just fishing. Like what type of fish are out here? Who am I going to run into? What conversation is going to spark what it is? Because we're going in with a whole bunch of knowledge. And if you're trying to pick out what knowledge you're going to share with someone, you're not going to have that authentic conversation with them. But I do think you should have a intent of why you're going to networking events.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole thing is, as a business owner, now if you're going to socialize and you're a social person, you just need to socialize, your whole intent is so totally different than us always having to make money, because our business don't thrive off of kindness and sweetness. It thrives off of making income and revenue so that we can continue to help the problems that we're out here trying to help. And so we do have to have that intent of, is this a potential client? Or is this someone else's in my network, a potential client that they can have, or can they help someone else in my network?
Mm-hmm.
So I go into the network event saying, is there someone that this person can help in my network? Can I help this person? Or do I want to stay connected with this person? And do I see that their character and who they are is someone I need? Because sometimes it's not about always working with them or having them under you. Sometimes you can collaborate with them. You can actually, I like to also know what other people are doing in their life. Like, what are they volunteering at? Because I look for volunteer events to go to, and I want to go to volunteer events where I know someone of character is volunteering there or doing something special for that event. So when I get ready to donate money, I have someone to go to and say, hey, I got this extra money I want to donate, and I send what you're doing. So it's not always about going specifically for business. I think it's also going for that connection of what do you do in your life too that you need to connect with people for. Like, I'm a holistic person, so I don't sell holistic stuff all the time in my business, but I'll go to events so I can meet someone holistic so I can get more knowledge and see if they have a community that I can join or be part of, that I will continue to keep myself going, because you have to do those alternative things in the business. And one of the things that you said is that casual conversation. I think you can have casual conversation anywhere. So when you go into a networking event, they're specifically telling you why they've set this event up, what this event is for. Mm-hmm. No one's expecting casual conversation. And I think that's the problem. Like, they literally said this event is to empower HR people. You don't come in and ask them how the sun is doing today. You woke up, you seen how the sun was doing. It's in the sky. So we're good on that part. The part is how are your people at your job doing? What's the problems going on at the job? What do you love for that? So like, just understanding why you're going to that event for, what that event is put up for, and who can you possibly meet in that event. And don't ignore anybody at the event. Sometimes we have this zone key eye or razor zone eye of, I'm going to meet this person. And you won't talk to this person because you're expecting to meet this person. But that person you didn't talk to is the person that is in charge of that person, and that actually can get you to the real people that you want to talk to. So don't go. I think going into networking events, to me, as an introvert, like, I'm a little bit like you too, area ambivert. I'm an intellectual ambivert. So like, if we're talking about intellectual things, I'm very much rah, let's go into it. But I go into events knowing, as Tracy said, I have to protect my energy. So I do cleanse throughout my events. I do a cleansing. When energy gets too much for me and I talk to some people, I go take a break. I don't continue to go. I know sometimes it becomes too much overwhelming with me. I might step out for a minute and come back and re-engage and stuff like that. So it's just making a plan also as an introvert. What are you going to do? How many people you're trying to talk to? You can't talk to 100, but I'm a plan to talk to 10. I know my energy level can handle 10 people. I know that these are the things that I can do to get me a little mental break in between so I don't feel overwhelmed. I know that I am here for this purpose. And in this purpose, I can either visualize myself as in my work office. And this is just the employees of my work. I like going into little scenes. These are the employees of my work. We're going through the halls. We got a little group going together, and we're just going to interact for a few minutes. And after the interaction's done, I'm going back into my shell, into my private place, and I'm going to think about what's going on. I think it's the after, we go into the after. What do you do after event, Tracy? What do you do after the event, Arielle? Like, what does that look like? Because we have to leave the event. What does that look like to y'all?
I'll be really honest. I think for me, after an event, I probably don't follow up as soon as I should with people at events, just because I do need like a day to kind of like process. Like, and I kind of know that about myself. So usually when I'm at an event, I've gotten better about also communicating that. So especially if I'm traveling to an event, I'm like, hey, it was really great to meet you. I look forward to being in touch over the next couple of days. Like, I don't set the expectation I'm going to call them right away, because I feel like then I'm going to let them down right away. So if we have agreed to talk, I try to set the expectation of like knowing me and knowing my energy. And I always need like an office day afterwards to kind of recoup. So like my like first thing of like after actually starts at the event, where I set the expectation of like, hey, I'm on the road. I'm going to be here for a couple of days seeing friends. I'll get back in touch with you next week. But I always give myself kind of a buffer. That also I find gives me some time to think about, if we have had a really good conversation, like what could I send them that's useful to them? And again, it's not always like a sales pitch, but like if we talked a lot about, I don't know, like developing a team, I might send them a really interesting article, or we have handouts around like 10 things CEOs should think about this year. So like I'll think about like, hey, based on our conversation, what's something helpful, no strings attached, I can just send them to say like, hey, I saw this and like thought it would be useful. And then that's how I do it. Like I'll usually connect with them on LinkedIn. If I'm going to be traveling for a lot of days, I might do that as like my first touch point, just connect and be like, hey, it was great to, meet each other at the event. I definitely want to stay in touch. In the meantime, I just thought I'd connect quickly while I'm on the road, but I'll be back in touch when I'm in the office. So I try to kind of keep that like low key feel throughout, right? Especially because a lot of the people I meet at networking events, we haven't had like a direct sales conversation. So I try to just make sure that I'm following up in the same tone, which was, hey, great to meet you. We had a super interesting conversation and, look forward to chatting more soon. How about you, Arielle? And Arielle, I'd also love you to touch on like, how do you pick events? Because I feel like you've been really thoughtful this year around incorporating more networking, and you've done a lot of work around like, how do you pick an event too?
It took me a lot of trial and error for that. So I've been doing it all of H1 and then partially, as far as we are into H2. And initially, I was just going to anything I could find that was related to my ICA. So making sure that they were in attendance. And my ICA, ideal client avatar, and for those who don't know, is women-owned businesses and also women entrepreneurs. So it could be solo or a business, small business that is looking to actually grow and scale their business to the next level. So anything about women empowerment, anything about growth, strategy, marketing, like anything that is really pertaining to women. That's what I initially started with. What I found was that it was a lot of people who were just starting out, a lot of people who really didn't know who they wanted to really serve and how they wanted to serve them. My ICA needs to be established and understand who the person that they're serving, what it is that they're offering. They need to be really clear on that, and we work together to get them situated and moving towards the growth that they're looking to reach. And so what I found was, okay, let me sit back and really think about, like, out of all these events I attended, and it wasn't like the same event like how you were doing it, Tracy. It literally was like, jump online, figure out what's the next thing happening this week, put it on my calendar, and then I go. And then after that, I was like, okay, let me really think about who are in attendance. I don't know if you read Pam Slim's book, but I don't know if you all read that book, but she talks a lot about like really understanding who your ideal client is, where they are, and where do they hang out, like the spaces that they hang out in, and not the spaces that they hang out to just relax and kick with their friends, but the spaces they actually go to learn, to connect, to grow, like business specific places. And so, after reading that book, I was like, okay, let me be a little bit more strategic here. Like, who is going to be in the room? Who is putting on this event? What's the ticket price? It sounds crazy, but what I found was free versus paid. There were different caliber of people in attendance. And I didn't think that mattered, but I mean, I guess they feel like their time is of value. And so they were going to the more paid events. This is not to tell you that you have to go to paid events to get clients, because I've gotten clients at free events also. But what I found was more of my ICA was in these specific paid events, and the topics were different. It was no longer just like women empowerment. It was like actually, it was actually a event with a cause there. And even some other ones that were there were like coming together to celebrate the wins for the year. And it was award ceremonies, like who has been doing great things in Orlando this year. And we're giving out awards to small business owners and growth and people who gave back. And those where body of work, thank you so much, is the book. And so those were the events that were really allowing me to see my ideal client more than just once or twice. And again, I wouldn't know off just visual. I would have to have that conversation and start talking. And I am a chatter when I'm in these rooms. And so I am building conversation, but I'm asking a lot of questions and I'm letting them talk, because people love to talk. They just like to hear themselves talk. And in the end, they'll be like, you were a great person, and they know nothing about you. And it's because you allowed them to speak. But as they're speaking, I'm super intuitive. So I'm pulling everything. Oop, I heard they say they struggle with that. Oop, I heard they say that this is something they would like to do by the end of this year. Oop, and I'm pulling all of these things to make sure that I have them in my arsenal. So when I follow up, or when I'm following up in conversation with them, or also in the future. And so when looking and speaking, it really have to make sure, like, what's the cause of this event? Is this somewhere? Doing that initial research on your ICA, on your ideal client avatar, is really going to help you when picking out the networking events to attend. And it's really important to know, like, why am I here? Like Tracy, she goes for personal development sometimes. She goes for, learning. Well, that is personal development. She goes for also speeches where she gives a topic. Me, on the other hand, I do those in addition, but majority of my networking is to build relationships. Rather, mentioning what Yanta did, rather that's someone that I can work with directly, someone I know that I can refer them to, someone they can help, someone that I can get to help them, or just a real great referral partner, because we might have the same ICA, but we don't offer the same things, and we can swap out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, I don't do this, but I know a girl. Oh yeah, we finished this and working with me. Here's probably the next thing you need to do. Go talk to Arielle about it. So it's like we sharing that same ICA. So not is it all the time where I'm going in and hoping, yep, I'm gonna get a sale right here, right now. It's like, what relationship can I build for forward movement and mobility for myself and that person?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that. I think that'll help people really choose the events that they go to. So hopefully everybody's enjoyed this very short kind of review of why we use networking events, how we think about picking them, how we operate, what do we do afterwards, right? Like lots of great tips. Yanta's going to throw one more in.
I just want to send y'all to a book that will help with the follow-up, because we know we didn't go into much detail on what do you do with the names afterwards, but Tracy spoke about some of the stuff, which is sending in documents and stuff that can help them with their business. Arielle spoke about the stuff of listening to their pain points and what can do it. So go get the book of How to Be a Power Connector by Judy Robbins. It's a really good book, and it breaks it down step by step on how to give you a good idea of moving your business forward after you collect those names.
That's awesome. And we will put that in the show notes along with the links to Pam Slim's books. She has a few of them. So we'll add all of those links. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Behind the Buzzwords. And if you have any questions about networking, you can send them to us on social media and we will address them in upcoming episodes. Great to see y'all.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found something new that was helpful, and if not, I hope you had a good laugh with us. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. The views expressed by the guests are their own and may not reflect the views of Behind the Buzzwords or the co-host. Mentions of particular books, digital tools, or strategies or participation of guests does not imply endorsement by Behind the Buzzwords or the co-hosts. This information provided is meant for educational and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as professional advice.